By the time you're watching this video, Death Stranding 2 on the beach would probably have launched, or maybe you might catch the video before the launch of Death Stranding Part 2. I want to ask a question. Why is this game a PlayStation timed exclusive or exclusive? Like, the question here is, what is the business proposition for this particular game? Because in my opinion, I honestly don't see what this game will benefit from a business perspective anyways. Maybe it's me that would basically, in a sense, demand that it be an exclusive title. What I mean by that is, if we kind of track back, and before I see any silly comment, because I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure. There's a likelihood that I'll see a silly comment that says, well, go buy a PlayStation if you want to play Death Stranding. I have a PlayStation number 1. I've had a PS5 for a minute. But here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is, even though I've had a PS5, Death Stranding is not the kind of game that I'm going to play. That's one very interesting way to go ahead and look at it, right? The second piece of this whole thing is, when you actually go ahead and think about it, I actually also owned the first Death Stranding game on PC. It was given away for free on the Epic Games Store. I have it, Death Stranding Director's Cut. I think we got the base and then we got the Director's Cut content as well as an addition. So if I wanted to play the first game, I could play the first game, but I'm not interested in playing the game at all. So have barely even touched it. I think I fired it up one time and I powered it and I recorded the fact that it was developed by, using Sony's Decima engine, and they published it, and that was all it was. But when you think about this game and its sales, I don't think this game had the strongest sales at launch, because the game came to PC in a very short period of time. And I think Death Stranding was actually given away on the PC platform in also a relatively short period of time too over here. Kind of felt like Midnight Suns. Okay, we can investigate. We can investigate and go ahead and check out when Death Stranding 1 went to PC. So Death Stranding Epic free game. You should be able to see it in, just, let me see, when was this? This was in 2022. So about 2 years later, December 25th, 2022, Death Stranding's Director's Cut was free to keep forever on Epic Games. Now, why did they go ahead and give this game away for free? They probably got a bag from Epic Games, sure. But would it not be sensible to possibly use that bag as an advertising methodology to say, okay, maybe people who may never have been interested in actually buying the game can now play the game, so that come when we launch the sequel to the game, those people who would never have bought a PlayStation in the first place to play the game can now play the game? So the logic here to me is like, I'm racking my brain going, so what inherently benefits the developer, Hideo Kojima, with this particular agreement? PlayStation probably wants to leverage it to sell consoles. Is Death Stranding a console mover in that regard? I'm just so curious, because when it all came down to it, the game itself ended up going to Xbox on the PC Game Pass. Yes, this game was collecting money from everywhere that it could. Okay, I'm not... Let me show you, man. This game, hold on, there's a Play Anywhere version that they sold on Xbox, so they have the better console version on Xbox because it's Play Anywhere, right? Death Stranding, let's go ahead and look it up. Death Stranding Game Pass. August of 20... Death Stranding is previously available on PC Game Pass, but it's since been removed from the service. It was initially added August 23rd, 2022, before it then took the bag and went free. Wow. So what did they expect when they put it on the PC Game Pass, and what did they expect when they put it on on Xbox, the console and the PC side for sale? That those people who had never played Death Stranding were going to all of a sudden go, wow, this is what we've been missing. We need to go buy a PlayStation console so that when Part 2 comes out, we're going to be enamored and floored by how wonderful this game is, and we're going to buy a new console to play Death Stranding 2? I'm just trying to maybe there are people that were going to do that. I'm asking, well, you know what? Let me ask. Are there people that want to do this? Because this game reached 20 million people. As to the sales number, we're not so sure. So when I look up Death Stranding sales, I think the last time I looked, it was around 10 million in sales. But the numbers that I'm seeing are it reached 20 million players. because it was available on all these platforms: PC, PS5, iOS, Amazon Luna, right? But when it comes to sales, oh yeah, Death Stranding has sold over 19 million copies. Instant Gaming News. Hold on. Okay, 19 million copies worldwide since 2019. So what you're trying to tell me is that this game that basically got put on Game Pass, given away for free, I mean, on Epic Games, took a bag and all that. You're trying to tell me this says approximately 20 million players. Okay, so inside Instant Gaming, y'all are fudging, the headline here. Or maybe they sold 20 million, but I'm still curious how many people want to go buy a new console to play Death Stranding 2, and why the game is exclusive just leaves me surprised. Let me go ahead and actually flip the script. When you kind of think about the fact that this game is going to launch in a very strange environment, an environment where there are about 16% of the gamers who play on PlayStation that are going to be possibly viable users who want to actually play and buy the game. You know what I mean by that? What I mean by that is when Matt Piscatella came out to the Kind of Funny podcast, he said that he would die on the hill that any game that launches has to deal with Fortnite as its biggest nemesis. And then he said that there were only 4% of gamers who were likely to buy a game every month, and 12% who bought one game every 6 months. 30% will not buy a video game. When you start running the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, what you're going to realize is, right? If you take all of this into account, you will realize that of the 77 million PlayStation consoles that are already out in the wind, the number of people that are going to go ahead and possibly be viable to market Death Stranding 2 is about 12 million, of which all these people still have backlogs and games that they want to play. And so your reach is now small when you've previously been able to accumulate 20 million gamers that actually got together and touched your game on different platforms, dispersed everywhere. So again, I'm asking from a data-driven perspective, why is this game, Death Stranding 2, exclusive as a sequel? What is supposed to be the game plan here? It just... Maybe I'm crazy, right? Because I see all these people telling me, well, McDonald's is not going to go sell, the Big Mac in a Burger King and blah, 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 blah. Acting like accessibility of products, the products that they mostly use, the third-party products, Pampers and Huggies, freaking Captain Crunch, right? And those brands that are available in general stores is not like Death Stranding 2, which is a Kojima game that he has acquired back from PlayStation. So once again, I just don't know what the math is mathing here. Why is this game an exclusive? Who does it benefit? I'm even my PlayStation is sitting there in the back there. I'm not gonna go buy Death Stranding 2. Not interested in playing it. I'm just asking questions here. Because I could play the first one. I have to, and I'm obligated to play the first one before I even say, oh, I'm gonna go and invest in the second one. Here's another thing for y'all from a data-driven perspective as well. This is something you got to pay attention to this stuff. When you look at the pre-orders on the PlayStation Store by bestseller, Death Stranding 2 comes out tomorrow. If you look at my desktop, depending on when you're watching this video, right? The time is 6:24 p.m. Sorry, I said 6:24 p.m. 8:35 p.m. June 24th, 2025. Right? When you think about this particular parameter and look at Death Stranding 2 sitting here at 5th place in the pre-order lineup, when Xbox games like Indiana Jones, Forza Horizon, what was the other one? Doom the Dark Ages. Doom Dark Ages did not hit the number one spot, but Indiana Jones lived there. And Forza. They lived in first and second place forever. It was weird. Right? Borderlands 4 has now basically topped the chart over Death Stranding 2. So the game is in a very interesting and competitive position. Not saying it's not good enough to compete. I'm just saying that the competition, even though it's still kind of lean, is still very tight and strict. I don't know how this game is supposed to be an exclusive. And if you want to go ahead and maybe judge the numbers for yourself, right? If we ever get wind of what Death Stranding sales are on PlayStation, they are not going to get to 12 million on that console alone in terms of sales for Death Stranding 2 for a console that for a game that's locked. Marvel Spider-Man 2 barely touched 12 mil. Right? Leveraging all of the hype and all of the buildup of the most popular superhero ever. I don't know, bro. I guess, hands are going to be shaking and, handshakes are going to be, given back and forth. So maybe hardware can be sold or something. It is what it is. Comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Peace out.